Good afternoon, students. Welcome to yet another session of English. I'm Xavier, working as an English teacher in Bethel Mission School, Kolkata. I really feel happy to have all of you over the online course. Today we'll be discussing a very important poem by the poet Robert Frost. The name of the poem, as you see here, is The Road Not Taken, which means the road which was not taken by the poet. Now, what exactly is the road that he is talking about in this poem? That is the point that we need to discuss. You see, this poem is a metaphorical poem. And what do I mean by a metaphorical poem? It is comparing something indirectly to another thing. Here, the road which the poet discusses is nothing but the road of life. It is the journey of life that one makes. That is the road that he is talking about. Therefore, the word road is directly compared to a journey a man makes in his life, or the choices that he makes in his life. Therefore, this gets a metaphorical touch. And before we get into the poem, I would like to say a few words about Robert Frost. He is an American poet. He belonged to the New England part of America. And he has written some very beautiful poems, out of which The Mended Wall, Fire and Ice, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening deserve a mention, a very special mention. Well, now coming back to this poem, The Road Not Taken, let's see the theme of this. What does the poet want to say in this poem? What is he driving at? What is the message that he wants to give us? He wants to tell us about the choices that a man makes in his life. Now, before we get into the rest of the points, I would like to kind of explain as to what happened with the poet. One day, the poet was walking through the woods. Wood is a forest, a small forest. And while he was walking, it was morning time, and he could see there were two roads in front of him. The two roads, as you see here, he walks along a road and then finally he comes to a diversion. In the sense, he comes to a fork, or you can say a crossroad. Now when he reaches these crossroads, when he comes to this particular point, he is confused. Why is the confusion created? Where did the confusion come from? The confusion comes because of these two diversions, the forks. Now he wants to make a decision as to which road he should take. Therefore, he waits there and looks at both the roads for some time. I mean, both the diversions, whether to take this one or the other one. Now, let me give you a very simple example to illustrate this point in a very clear way. Supposing I call a student from the class and give him two fruits, an apple and an orange. Now it depends on the student to choose as to which fruit he likes. He might either choose an apple or the orange. But sometimes the student may be in a confusion. For example, I call another student and offer him both the fruits and ask him to choose one. He is in a dilemma, in a confused state. He doesn't know which fruit to choose. Should he go for the apple or should he go for the orange? Now that exactly is the situation which is faced by the poet here. Which road should I take? Because both the roads appeared equally good. And it was autumn time. And what do you mean by autumn? It's a season when you have all these leaves falling down. The trees, they shed their leaves. So, when he looked at both the roads, he could see both the roads were filled with leaves. But then, on one road, he could see some extra growth, or you may call it as undergrowth, growth of grass. And the poet now thinks, well, let me take this road. The road which has an undergrowth. The road which is covered by the grass. So he feels that that particular road which was covered by grass was not used. In other words, it was very less used, not often used. Therefore, he wanted to use the road that was less traveled. And therefore, he wanted to walk that road. But then again, he stands there, continues to watch both the roads, and on a closer examination, he finds both the roads of the same nature. He says, both of them have been used. So now again, there is a confusion, and this confusion is nothing but the confusion that one makes, the choice. The confusion comes because of the choices. So when one person is unable to decide, if he is unable to take the right course of action in his life, he's faced with a confusion. So this is the kind of confusion that is being discussed here. So the poet says now, I will take the road that is less traveled. And he also feels that if I take this road, the road that is less used, I may not be able to come back. What he wants to say here is, if I travel through this road, I do not know where it will lead me to. What would be the result if I take that road? So he feels, even if I want to come back after some time, I may not be able to do that. Therefore, he is confused for a while, but then finally he goes on that particular road. He does not come back on his decision. So, sometimes what happens in our life is that we come to a crossroad like this. We are faced with certain decisions which are very, very confusing and complicated. Both the decisions might be good for us. For example, you finish your class 12, and then there is a big question which faces you. What should I do now? Should I go for medicine or should I go for engineering? Some of your friends may suggest, no, you go for engineering, but your parents may not be willing. They may say, no, you go for medicine. So there is a big confusion. So when you face confusions like this, you are exactly like the poet who has come to a crossroad. You are not able to take the right decision. So the poet says, you have to take a decision. You can take your own time in taking the decision. Your decision can be delayed, but it must be strong. The decision may be delayed, that is not a problem, but the decision has to be clear and strong so that you may not regret after taking the decision. So the poet in the last stanza very clearly tells us, many, many years after, I will be able to tell my friends or my grandchildren or my well-wishers that there were two roads in a wood, and I took the one which was less traveled by, and because of my decision, a great change has come upon my life. So if you see the last line of the poem, you will find a word, and that has made all the difference. So what is the difference that the poet is talking about? he speaks about the great change that has come upon in his life. And the change was possible because he took the right road, which means the choice that he made was the right one. So, what the poet tries to tell us in this poem is that if you make a choice, your choice must be a very clear and a very, very strong one, so that you may not regret after you have taken the decision. You may not feel sorry for what you have decided. That exactly is the point that the poet wants to drive through this poem, The Road Not Taken. Now, if you have the textbooks with you, I recommend that you go over each and every stanza and try to find out what the poet is talking about. How does he kind of insist on making a right decision, and what exactly is the change that comes over a person if he takes the right decision? And before I wind up, I would like to kind of go over the literary devices which have been applied in this poem. You see, when a poet writes a poem, he uses several literary devices. For example, as I had told you in the beginning of the lesson, of the session, the poem is a metaphorical poem. What do you mean by metaphor? It is a direct comparison. Here, the road which he speaks of is not just a literal road, but the road of life. So it is about a journey that a man makes in his life. Therefore, it is a metaphorical poem. And there are some words which you need to notice when you read the poem. For example, undergrowths. When the poet looks at both the forks, the diversions, he finds one diversion to be full of grass, undergrowth. And what does this undergrowth mean? It means the different options or the barriers, you can say. When you are about to take a decision, you might face a lot of barriers in your life. So those barriers are known as the undergrowth. They are the obstacles of life. And there is another poetical device which has been used here, and that is the alliteration. What is an alliteration? The repetition of a word which produces a consonant sound. You know what the consonants are, apart from A, E, I, O, U. The rest of the letters of the English alphabet, they are known as consonants. So if two consonant sounds follow one after another, producing the consonant sound, you call that literary device as alliteration. And in the poem, you will find this word ages and ages. So the word ages and ages, it is repeated, and the G sound, you see, J. The J sound is repeated here, and therefore the literary device that has been used here could be called as alliteration. Then we come to personification. What is personification? It is a literary device through which the poet makes a non-living thing into a living thing. An inanimate object becomes animate, which means an object which has no life becomes alive. It comes to life. You see here, it wanted where? What does the word it refer to? It refers to the road, which was less used. And you see the word wanted? I've underlined the word wanted. What does it mean? Want. It is a human need. I need some water. I want some water. Or I want some food because I'm hungry. So human beings have the want. And here, the word want is associated with a non-living thing, that is road. The road wanted where? So here the human need is being introduced, and it is associated with the non-living thing, that is the road. Therefore, this literary device is the personification. And then there is another poetical device which you must know, that is antithesis. What is an antithesis? Anti means opposite. When two opposite ideas are expressed in a poem, in a line, that is known as antithesis. Here you see, I'm sorry, I could not travel both. The poet wanted to travel both, but he was not able to travel both of them. So the positive idea is connected with a negative idea, two negative ideas put together, and this sort of literary device where you find two negative ideas, opposite ideas expressed, is known as antithesis. So we have metaphor, we have alliteration, we have personification, we have antithesis, and there are also some other literary devices which we shall discuss in the next session. But before we wind up, let me go over the points once again. The poem, The Road Not Taken, is written by Robert Frost. It is a metaphorical poem, metaphorical in the sense the roads are not the literal roads, but the roads are the kind of decisions or the journey of life that we take. So that is a metaphorical poem, and the points that you need to remember while discussing or while reading this poem is you must be clear in your choices. There might be many choices, but choose the better one or the best one. Your choice can take time. It may be delayed, but it should never be a wrong decision. It must be strong. And the impact or the result of your decision cannot be experienced by you for the time being. But only in future you will be able to understand the impact of the result. But whatever it may be, your decision must be strong, although it may be delayed. I hope you might have got a very clear picture about the poem that we discussed. Until we meet in the next session, goodbye.